brilliant young people that you have heard from today. I need notes. My name is Amanda, and I have a habit of telling the future. I see omens, interpret dreams, I speak to ghosts. I keep I Ching sticks on my desk. I meditate on the tarot. I believe that crows carry messages from beyond, and I insert dollars into carnival machines to have Zoltar read my fortune. I spin the dial and let the music on the radio speak to me. I look for signs. I shake my magic 8-ball, and when it tells me to concentrate and ask again, I do. My son and I play the radio game. This is how you do it. You get in a car and you drive, or if you can't drive, you ride, long enough for the movement of the vehicle to begin to feel familiar. You know the feel of a good car ride, right? It's the way that the landscape moves past you in a way that makes you feel as if you are both in it and also moving through it. Hold a question or a thought or a person in your mind, and then spin the dial on the radio. When a station comes in clearly, you might hear words or music or both. Let it be what it is, but also let it be, but also let the sound open a door to the thing that you are holding in your mind. This is an act of divination. This is an act of also-ing. By holding two things inside of your mind at once, you have created a new possibility. You have made yourself elastic, and by definition, you have practiced resilience. You have created and divined a new way of knowing. For me, the world is deeply coded. There are patterns and there are spirits. There is a here and there is also a there. There is one meaning and there is also always another meaning. The song on the radio is a song and it is also a message. I have been a maker of alsos since I was a very little girl. When I was little, I experienced a trauma that split me in two and held me inside of my body while it also pushed me outside of it. It created a kind of telescoping inside of my mind, where distances between thoughts and feelings and experiences were abstract. I was both very suffocatingly close to everything and also removed to the greatest possible degree. I was like a book whose binding is separated by use, my exterior hanging by only a thread to the content of me. I was in pieces, but I was also, in essence, still recognizable as myself. In this way, my brain made being also an act of survival and of defiance. Alsoing allowed me to be me. It allowed me to survive, and also was my first introduction to resilience. In its most basic forms, divination is just fortune telling. It is tea leaves and crystal balls and dowsing rods. But divination is also a kind of liminal search for wisdom. As an educator, I can speak to the power of liminal growth. A student who reaches for something just beyond the edges of their understanding builds a kind of exponential knowing, where understanding is rooted in what is already known, but it takes its form in what is not known yet. For me, divination is the tingly excitement of the future. And importantly, it is also a set of tools for unifying what I know and have experienced with what I need to feel and understand in order to bring the liminal, the parts at the edges, into alignment with me. Divination becomes a framework for resilience. It connects the cover to the book. It gives the mind a new home in the body. It allows for a tippy-toe reach to the top shelf of understanding, where what you need is just out of reach, but you know you can grab it because you can feel it and you can also almost see it. Divination is a way of recognizing what we are also capable of. Really feeling that we are also capable of more is resilience. The word also, it's your second etymology for the day. The word also comes from the Old English word elswa, meaning in just the same way. The Old English word reaches back to an even older Saxon root that means just as if. So when I sit in the car and the landscape slips by so quickly that it is thinned by the speed of our passing, and I spin the dial, letting the radio game answer my question about what comes next, or what possibilities there are, or what help I need, it is just as if the future is already riding beside me. In just the same way, it acknowledges that everything I need is already here. So when the station settles, and it is, for example, Taylor Swift singing, "Shake It Off, Shake It Off," I feel for a moment that it is indeed possible, if not imperative, to shake it off. This isn't earth-shattering fortune-telling. There are no promises here of fame or of fortune. Minor forms of divination are not for wealth and for longevity and for true love. They are for one moment to the next moment, the liminal reach to the adjacent bit of knowledge, the place that is just around the corner. It is the answer to the question, is someone thinking of me? Divination tells us that yes, of course someone is thinking of you, because you are worth thought. And if they aren't, look, the universe is. Do you need proof? Here is Taylor Swift, as the voice of the universe, telling you that everything is going to be all right. And if you don't have a car, and if you don't have a radio, if you don't have a magic 8-ball, or an I Ching, or a tarot, you have me right here, standing in liminal connection to your life right now, telling you that everything is going to be all right. What I love about also, and the forms of minor divination that bring it into focus in my life, is that it erases nothing. It acknowledges that my future exists alongside my present, and as an extension of my past. The next moment is here in just the same way that this one is. Some people are born resilient, and others of us have had to create the framework that allows us to bend before we break. One of the earliest, clearest memories I have is of the day that John Lennon died. I was 4, you can do the math. In bed at night, long after my bedtime, I listened to my parents in another room as they listened to the radio. I could hear their words. I could not hear their words, but I could hear their voices. You know that sound. It is what Robert Frost describes as the sound of sense, where even without distinct language, we can understand the emotion that a voice holds. I could feel my parents' sadness. Without the familiar context of their bodies, their voices frightened me, until the door down the hall to their room was cracked open just a little bit, and I heard clearly from the radio the words to the song "In My Life." The song created an understanding inside of me that made space for my fear, for my parents' sadness, and for the genius of the lyric. Nothing was erased, and also everything was contained. Even though something was amiss, different, and unknowable, it was also clear to me that more was possible. More love, more comfort, and even more sadness were possible. But the words of that song in that moment divined for me the same message that all divination offers. It says, here you are. Here is a step in the next direction. Here is the space to figure it out. And if you need to ask again, or if you need to ask in a different way, there is space for that too. This is the door I try to open in my teaching as well. To reach for liminal wisdom is to reach for withstanding. In parenting, in loving, and in being human, resilience comes when we have the tools to hold on to the edges of something while we also feel it in our core. Divination is a teacher. It cannot make us wise, but it can give us the tools for wisdom. And in reality, each of us engages in 1,000 acts of divination every day. From the moment we look at ourselves in the mirror in the morning trying to see ourselves as others will, to the moment that we lay down at night and we look back on the day that we have had in preparation for the next, we are divining the future. We are, as Emily Dickinson wrote, dwelling in possibility. Physicists suggest that we are not wrong to see one moment in the next, and string theory illustrates for us that we live in universes of almost infinite possibility. Even Taylor Swift, who is just a girl who found her voice in Tennessee, predicts and reassures us when she says, it's either going to last forever or else it's going to go down in flames. The poets, the physicists, and the pop stars, they can't all be wrong. If we look just a little bit ahead of ourselves, we create the capacity to experience and withstand great amounts of change. For me, divination takes 100 forms. It's in the music I hear, it's in the card that I draw, it is in the pattern of the birds as they fly across the sky. These are my tools for resilience. These are the ways that I also the world, so that when I find myself in my brain and my body in moments of worry and of wonder, I can be both frightened and also be in awe of what is just around the corner, just a little out of sight. For some of us, it is enough to trust in a little magic, and for the rest of us, it needs quite a lot, whole systems of magic. There is room in our lives and in our pedagogies and in our practices for moments of magical thinking. When we are faced with the esoteric, in life and in the classroom, when the knowledge that we need feels huge and unapproachable, or it is hard to see the concept that drives the task that we have been asked to do, it is okay to trust for a moment in something else. Divination is a tangential art. It privileges connection, it makes space for perspectives, and creates a space for trial and error. It can turn worry and wonder into something absolutely magical. History is full of mystics who changed the world by seeing that here is also connected to there. Pythagoras, for example, was looking for his soul when he recognized the foundational relationships of geometry. This is the magic of divination, the message from someplace else that pulls your understanding forward into belonging. Play the radio game. Shake the magic 8-ball, flip a coin. Being is also magic. Loving is also magic. And learning is most definitely also magic. My trauma left me with a legacy of magical thinking. I have a habit of telling the future. I look around corners, I reach a little further, I read palms, and I consult the stars. I follow the patterns of clouds. I dream. I am damaged, but I am also so much more than my damage. When we are able to see the magic in the world, it makes it so much easier to be in it. Divination is an act of resilience, but it is also an invitation. It is me holding you in my mind as I spin the dial on the radio, and I hear the universe speak through the voice of Taylor Swift as she says, "I've got a blank space, baby, and I'll write your name." Thank you.